Welcome back to the Living ReelDriven podcast. I'm Nick, and today I want to really speak directly to those of you who are feeling stuck, you're feeling frustrated, or maybe you're in a place where money, clarity, and peace seem to be eluding you, right? No matter how hard you try to get back in control of your life, make different decisions, get different results, you kind of feel like you're stuck in this perpetual spiral, and no matter what you do, things are just not really getting better. Right. And the reason I want to talk about this is because the last 3 to 4 months for me, really since December, it's been a hell of a roller coaster, to say the least, in so many different ways. And I'm very fortunate, looking back now, that it's gifted me a lot of lessons and a lot of tools that I can wield that are going to serve me on my journey moving forward. But when you're in it, it's tough, right? You're just like, why are all these things happening? Like, what is going on? So today, I really want to keep this episode short, but dial in and share some of the biggest mental shifts that have helped me shift out of scarcity and really back into alignment, into flow, into abundance, and into a much more peaceful place, right? A much more mentally, physically, financially healthy place. All right. And this isn't just going to be one of those think positive episodes. It's really for anyone who's ever felt like they're doing everything right, but the results just are not following. They're not showing up for them. So if you feel like life's been squeezing you a little bit tighter than usual, I'm really hoping that this episode is going to provide you some really good insights and perspective shifts. Before I dive into the exact insights and perspective shifts, I need to give you a really quick background so you understand some of the things I was going through and what led me to creating these shifts and really realizing that, hey, I have the power to create lasting change here and get myself out of this place, right? So without going into too much detail, in December of 2024, I had a massive blow up in my trading, right? And it was following probably the best 5 weeks I've ever had in my day trading career. I made more money than I knew what to do with in that period. I actually kind of just counted it as it's already made, right? It's already in my bank account. It's already done. And I had 2 really bad days where I basically lost everything I made for the last month and a half. It was horrendous. And it wasn't just the financial impact this had on me, but it was the negative thought loops that followed. It was the overthinking that followed. It was the imposter syndrome that followed that kind of led into this emotional spiral, right? After that occurred, I crashed my scooter. I slipped a disc in my back really badly, actually twice, that rendered me unable to go to the gym and lift the same way I have. My wallet was stolen out of my car with my driver's license, $300 cash, some other stuff. I dropped my phone in a cold plunge and had to get a new one. And those are just a few of the things that occurred afterwards due to my energetic shift, right? Because I wasn't operating at my best and I was stuck in this perpetual cycle of almost just victimhood to some degree. And I tried to get myself back, but because my baseline thought patterns and mood and energetic resonance was low vibrational, no matter what I did, it just kept resorting back to that, right? And when you're operating in that state, your behaviors and your actions follow how you're feeling and your thoughts. So if your thoughts are negative and you're beating yourself up and you're stuck in scarcity and lack and you worry, then it's going to affect your decision making. So it did affect my trading following that. It did affect my business. It did affect how I showed up for my students. It did affect how I created content. It affected all these different areas, which made it even more difficult to get out of it. So eventually I realized, Nick, like, you're focusing on all the shit that's going wrong, all the things that aren't serving you right now. You need to get out of this because your inner world is reflective of your outer world. And it's very, very apparent right now that your inner world is in turmoil and chaos. So you need to break this cycle and you need to reconnect back to, the present moment, to God and to love and abundance, right? And I basically made a decision to start changing my internal state actively, right? So instead of focusing on all the lack in my life and things that were going wrong, I had to shift into a state of gratitude. And one of the best ways to do that is through meditation and returning back to a place of stillness where you're outside of your mind and you're connected to source and everything around you, right? That's a place of infinite love, and that's where you can create anything. And when you're just quiet and the monkey mind's not going, you are in such a high vibrational place So what's funny is this whole time, I know all these things logically. I've been teaching this and studying this for years and years. My mom owns a healing center. I've been around it for a very long time. But when you're in that headspace, it's so hard to remember, right? So what I did was I committed to shifting my focus to presence, to peace, and what's going well for me. And I made that a top priority every single day. I did active visualizations and meditations, things of that sort. But really the biggest thing for me was I increased my awareness levels. And when I ever found myself getting triggered or spiraling or trying to cling onto negative thoughts that came up or worry, I would just look at it, I'd recognize it, and I'd give myself grace and I would let it pass and I would choose to focus elsewhere. In fact, I would actually literally say cancel. So if I called myself stupid or I beat myself up or I did or said something that does not align with where I want to go and the energetic resonance I want, I would say cancel out loud, right? That's how serious I got about this. So what I did was I started to choose to surrender to the experiences I was having. And, one of the things about this is, yes, the universe is going to reflect right back to you very quickly, right? But if you've been soaking in this space for months, right, in victimhood for months, it's going to take a little bit of time for that ripple effect to always occur. And still some events or circumstances would happen where I was like, dude, what the heck? I'm focusing on all the right things. Why are these bad, quote unquote, bad things happening for me? And I would just look at them and I would smile and say, they'll get better because I'm not reacting to them. I'm not allowing them to spiral. And I'm shifting my entire perspective around these events and what's happening to, wow, what is this teaching me? Thank you so much, God, for the learning opportunities you're giving me. Thank you so much for making me stronger and for making me wiser. I'd also ask, what are you trying to show me that I'm not seeing? The times when I look back into these things that occurred, it's like, what is life trying to teach me right now? Right? What is it showing me that I'm not able to comprehend or I'm not getting? And when I look back into it, there's really profound lessons in them, especially with like the back pain and losing the money. Like there's all these things. It's like, you still have a huge attachment to money. Cool. So I can start to adapt and make changes. So once I started looking at it, like, what are these trials teaching me that will serve me moving forward? Everything changed. And there's a quote from a book I was just reading called Dollars Flow Easily to Me. And it says something like, when I stopped trying to get out of where I was and instead started honoring where I already was, everything softened. Opportunities came to me, money showed up, and I felt lighter. So you have to understand that your focus is a magnet. The more you fixate on certain things, on certain thoughts, the more similar thoughts you attract. And over time, this creates your mood, right? How you feel throughout the day. That is essentially a practiced vibration. And as someone named David Bayer says, he's awesome, by the way, you're either operating from a primal or a powerful state of being. So pretty much every day I have this action plan tracker I use, but essentially I put every single day at the end of the day, was I operating in a primal or a powerful state of being? Primal meaning you're in control, you're focused on the right things, you're a conscious creator of your day, and primal being you're reacting to your thoughts and emotions and they have control over you. Now, the good news is that just as you can unconsciously shift into a primal state or a more negative state, quote unquote, you can also consciously shift out of it by choosing where you put your attention and your awareness and your energy and focus. If you start to shift that, then it will eventually mirror your external reality. This is where I find so much power in stillness. Just as I said before, in the generous present moment, there is really only love and connection to source. You are not sitting in your problems because your mind just creates all these complex problems. You're connected to everything in that moment. So that ripple effect is going to reflect your dominant vibration, and that's going to take a little bit of time if you've been in victimhood for a long period. Now, the first thing I need you guys to understand about this energetic shift is that scarcity is just a frequency. It's not a dollar amount. I know people who barely have any money who are vibrant, radiating energy and love. And then I know people who have a ton of money who are still in scarcity. They're constantly worried. They're constantly stressed out, and they are not in abundance at all. So when you're constantly thinking about what's missing, what could go wrong, you're blocking what's trying to arrive now. Peace, gratitude, love, those are all magnetic states of being. You don't need to have everything you want at this moment to be in alignment with it right now, right? And this was always a tough one for me because as someone who's super ambitious, I really always felt like, hey, I'm going to have this much money by the time I'm 27. I'm going to be doing this by the time I'm 27. I'm going to have this many followers and do this and this and this. And every time I came up short, it put me in such a lack mentality. Like I was so far away from where I wanted to go. I failed. I was a loser. And it really affected my self-worth. Then I started to shift to the process and understanding that everything happens in divine timing. All I could focus on was my own actions and behaviors and then surrender to the flow of life. Because we don't have, at the end of the day, we don't have control over much besides ourselves. So I realized I was trying to force all these things, force clarity, force money, force the timeline I was on. And the more that I gripped to that, the more I felt heavy and stagnant and I met resistance. And then a few months ago, I came across a book a buddy recommended called The Surrender Experiment by Mickey Singer. And I had already read his other book, The Untethered Soul, which was fantastic. And it got me to really think about, what if I just stopped trying to control everything? What if I stopped trying to force my way out of this place that I'm in right now? And I just showed up moment by moment, fully present, fully open to receiving, and just worked on my internal state. And that's when everything started flowing again. That's when my trading started to really pick up. That's when I started to receive more downloads and inspiration. That's when I started to get more clients. That's when I was meeting new, really cool people. That's when money would flow into my life unexpectedly because I wasn't chasing it. I wasn't in a place of lack without it. I wasn't beating myself up for not being where I was or for all these things happening, saying, oh, why is this happening? Why me? Blah, blah, blah. It's just like, no, these things are all happening for a reason. They're teaching you something. And I believe, or I choose to believe that there's a powerful reason behind all these things occurring. So all I have to do is shift my internal state and everything else will follow suit. And that's pretty much exactly what's happening right now as I do this episode. So here's a quote in the book that I jotted down, and it says, "The natural flow of life is always guiding you to your highest evolution. Your only job is to stop resisting it." Oh, so freaking powerful, because it's so easy for us humans to just get in our own way all the time and overthink freaking everything. Now, before I wrap this episode up, there's a few quotes from the book Dollars Flow Easily to Me that really stopped me in my tracks and impacted me a lot and got me thinking, right? So I definitely recommend that book. It's almost like an active meditation that brings you into the present moment and gets you out of your head. So check it out. But here it goes. The first one is, the universe doesn't respond to your words, your affirmations, or even your hard work. It responds to your dominant vibration. And this one really resonated because I realized I was saying all the right things. I was visualizing, I was affirming, I was doing all these things, but deep down, I was still vibrating with fear, with pressure, with resistance. I was forcing everything and nothing was flowing because I was trying to control everything around me, right? And it wasn't until I started shifting how I felt moment to moment, bringing my awareness to how I was feeling, from survival into gratitude and from fear into more openness and the ability to receive, that the energy actually started to move and I began receiving again. And there's another one that said something like this: when you no longer need it to come, that's when it arrives. Need is a form of resistance. Trust is the pathway. So the less you need it, the faster it shows up. Not because you don't care, but because you're no longer blocking it with resistance. And this one really applies to trading. I tell my students all the time, the more you force and the more you need to make a certain amount and you're focused on the profits, the more resistance that you're going to meet. Show up, follow the process, do your best, follow your rules, and the money will always flow to you. So that's pretty much what I have for you guys today. If this message resonated, I invite you to sit with a few journal prompts below to help you integrate and rewire your own energetic patterns. And if you want to drop a little bit deeper into this frequency of peace and abundance, I recorded a free meditation on YouTube for attracting wealth and prosperity into your life, and you can find this in the description as well. Before I wrap up this episode, I just want to leave you with this. The path in the journey, it's not about perfection. It's about presence. It's about experiencing the most you can out of life and finding peace throughout all of it. And you don't have to have it all figured out to start living abundantly today, right? To start enjoying your life today, to have happiness today. People think that they need to have their dream life. They need to make this amount of money, drive this car, be in this relationship, and everything needs to be perfect for them to start enjoying life and being happy now. That is ridiculous, because I can tell you from someone who is a high achiever and is always striving for more, if you can't find peace right now, when you do receive those things, it's not going to bring you more happiness that's long lasting. That comes internally. So remember that you're not behind, you're not broken, and the peace that you're searching for right now is already within reach if you choose it. I love you guys. Hope this episode helped some of you, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.